This is Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Happy draft day, all y'all. It is Prop Points. Jeff Erickson with Nick Whalen, who is on location in Vegas. Not at the draft himself, but at the D right now. No, Bar Canada at the D. That's right.
Yes, sir.
And looking forward to doing 2 days in Vegas. There, you can see the wide shot. Looking at him, looking sharp. Got looking official, making this like a real show here. I like it. We're going to be recapping, what happened in the NBA and baseball yesterday. We're going to do live afternoon baseball updates. We're going to preview tonight's baseball and basketball betting slates. But most importantly, we're going to be talking draft. John McKechnie is going to join us, and we're going to wrap it up with our best bets for the first day of the NFL draft, or maybe just the draft as a whole. Nick, let's start off in the NBA. Yep. The big game had to be Houston taking game 2 from Golden State. Jimmy Butler getting hurt, falling on his tailbone, not coming back. They got further injuries later in that game. Became a pretty big wide margin in the second half. Golden State kept it close for a while. Some contention in that game. Shockingly enough, I know you're shocked. Draymond Green got involved somehow. But big win for Houston, winning by 15.
Yeah, honestly, the Draymond Green technical in the fourth quarter, I thought was kind of a big deal, right? I mean, that to me essentially ended the game, right? Houston had kept that lead in the 16 to 20 range for most of the second half. All of a sudden, they call a timeout early in the fourth quarter and come out on a 9-0 run. It's down to 11. And then Draymond gets tangled up, and we had like our 7th review in the first half of the fourth quarter. That was like a 2-hour fourth quarter last night, it felt like. But obviously the big news here is Jimmy Butler. And, game 3 is not until Saturday. The Warriors are favored at home in that game. They're still minus 180 to win the series, despite getting blown out last night. That tells me that the initial indications behind the scenes would be that Jimmy Butler will likely return on Saturday. But they need him. They need him, Jeff, right? There's no debate, right? We kind of know this is a two-man team. And, you got some decent contributions from Moses Moody. The Butler injury enabled the Warriors to have to dust off Jonathan Kuminga. We'll see if he ends up being a part of this series. But it gets really shallow really fast beyond that top 2. And without Jimmy Butler out there for most of the night, we saw the Houston Rockets were able to key on Stephen Curry. They held him to just 20 points. And a lot of that was without Amen Thompson on the court. He was in early foul trouble, barely played for a lot of the second and third quarter, and really they were conservative with him even in the second half. So you got to be concerned if you're Golden State, when you look at the Butler situation, because all of a sudden it's a lot of Quentin Post. It's a lot of Pat Spencer, who actually gave them pretty decent minutes last night. But the way this team is constructed, they need 55, 60 points, I think, out of Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler in most games. So incredible response by the Houston Rockets. This is exactly the game you wanted to see. I thought the defense was fantastic. And the other thing I want to mention, Jeff, Jalen Green, who was awful in game 1, had one of the best games of his career. Took 18 threes, hit 8 of those last night, 38 points, 6 assists. I think that was a huge question mark going into game 2. Nobody expected Jalen Green to have this kind of game, and I'm excited to see if that carries over to the rest of the series.
Yeah, I think Kevin Harlan called it the Jalen Green game.
Yeah.
It absolutely was true. We were talking the other day, I think yesterday, musing about where is Houston going to find that score? Who's going to be their go-to guy?
Yep.
Green showed something there that maybe it is him, despite such an awful game 1.
Right.
Now, they go to Golden State. They travel there. Golden State still has minus odds to win the series. Mm-hmm. They're still the favorite in this series. But, obviously, it's Butler or no Butler, and that's just the huge consideration that we're going to have. We'll have more time to speculate on that as we go forward. Magic, Celtics. No Jason Tatum, no problem. They lost a cover late in that one. Got a little annoying there for me. But at the same time, comfortable win for the Celtics without Tatum. The sweep odds are now minus 125 at DK.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm surprised that number is not, a little bit larger. We played it at slightly plus money. I think it was plus 105 earlier in the week. And, of course, some of that is contingent on Jason Tatum. And, does Boston, seeing what they were able to do without him last night, does that lead to them being a little bit more cautious if that wrist is still bothering him, knowing that in all likelihood you're going to win this series, even if you drop one of these games in Orlando. But, awesome game by Jaylen Brown last night. I think to me he was kind of a low-key question mark for the Boston Celtics coming into these playoffs. Like, Jaylen Brown has not had the type of season that we expected coming off of a Finals MVP a year ago. He's had that nagging knee issue at the end of the regular season. You wondered if he would be hampered. He picked up the slack in a big way. Obviously, Porzingis was fantastic. All-time moment, with Porzingis bleeding from his head. He comes back out with this haphazard bandage on his forehead. He's still got blood in his hair. Just going to be kind of one of those iconic photos, I think, in Boston Celtics history, especially if they win the title this year. We did hit Derek White over 21.5 points plus assists. That was a bit of a slog. Took much later into the game for that to hit than we expected. But the Celtics, to me, Jeff, are the only team where you could take away their clear best player, and you still feel really good about them winning convincingly. Yeah, they didn't cover. They lost it in the final moments. There's a great shot, by the way, of a Celtics fan who was just losing his mind in the second row when I think it was Banchero laid that up with 5 seconds left. You could see he was very clearly not necessarily worried about the Celtics winning the game. He was worried about the 10.5. On the Orlando side of things, Jeff, I thought this was basically the same story as Game 1. You got 57 out of Banchero and Wagner. That's great. I thought Wendell Carter played one of his best games in the last few months. They just don't have the horses. We were talking yesterday about who steps up off the bench. There's just nobody. There's nobody that you can realistically say, hey, can you give us 15 to 20? That's what we're going to need against this Boston team. And, the other thing that's impressive about the Celtics, again, you take away Jason Tatum, not only have they built this ultra deep roster, but they've built a roster of guys who fit the system, who buy in. Like, the style of play doesn't really change. They're still winning the math battle dramatically when it comes to the three-pointers. They're plus 15 in terms of points from beyond the arc last night. And it's just really, really difficult to envision Orlando, which was the worst three-point shooting team in terms of volume and efficiency this season, finding a way to narrow that gap even at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Does this series look any different if Jalen Suggs is healthy?
Possibly. It would make me maybe. I would take Celtics in 5 as opposed to Celtics in 4. I don't think it changes. Yeah, it doesn't change the outcome of the series, which is Boston is going to advance, but it matters. It definitely matters, right? I mean, Suggs was having a great year. He had improved offensively, especially the first 10, 15 games of the year. He's shooting the lights out from 3. Who knows if that would have continued, but I think defensively what he brings specifically against Boston, right? That's somebody that you could comfortably throw on Derek White. You could throw on Drew Holiday. You could throw on Peyton Pritchard. And, these backup point guard options, whether it's Corey Joseph or Cole Anthony or Anthony Black, not only do these guys struggle offensively, but none of them are anywhere close to the level of defender that Jalen Suggs is.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that one there. We're going to talk a little Heat and Cavs, but first, quick note. Are you still using your buddy's instinct as your betting strategy? Come on, you deserve better. RotoWire has the real tools the pros use: rankings, projections, updates, and data that doesn't sleep. Whether you're making picks, setting your fantasy lineup, or placing bets, our award-winning insights give you the edge you need. Get started today by heading over to RotoWire.com and entering Roto15 at checkout for 15% off any RotoWire product. One more basketball game to recap before we move into baseball. The Cavs, they had to hang on a little bit here in this game. They did not dominate the Heat like they did in Game 1. The 121-112 final score kind of belies the fact that it was a 2-point game with 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, both teams shot the ball really well overall. I think if you're the Miami Heat, it's a little bit demoralizing to lose this game by 9, despite shooting 52% from the field. They go 16 of 45 from beyond the arc. Got to the free throw line a decent amount. They did have 13 turnovers. That was an issue. Virtually everybody who was in the rotation committed a killer turnover at some point for Miami. But the problem was Cleveland went 22 of 45 from 3. Donovan Mitchell goes 7 of 10. I mean, Mitchell was essentially the closer for this game. And I was surprised at how long the Cavs waited to bring him back. The Heat are making this run. It's basically a 2-possession game. They didn't bring Mitchell back in until the 4.5-minute mark. But as soon as he comes in, he hits back-to-back threes and basically ended the game. I will say, Nikola Jovic had a couple good looks down the stretch. It's Nikola Jovic. It's not Nikola Jokic. We need to be clear what the expectations are here. But he went 1 of 8 from 3, man. It's if you get a slightly better shooting night from Nikola Jovic, who had a big miss in the corner during that Miami Heat run that really felt like it would have put some pressure on the Cavs. That was the big inflection point for me. This series, Miami's competitive. They're going back home. Maybe they could take a game off the Cavs, especially if they could continue shooting it like this. But we heard Darius Garland after the game. He was asked, what is the key when you're facing this Miami team? What do you try to exploit? He looked right into the camera and said, "We target Tyler Hero. That's what we do. That is our strategy." And Tyler Herro's going to be out there 40-plus minutes in these next 2 games in Miami. So I think the Cavs know the ways that they can exploit this Heat team. I think that probably continues, especially if Evan Mobley is as aggressive as he was last night. He was just okay in Game 1. We saw a very, very different version of Evan Mobley in Game 2. If that continues to show up, this could be a sweep.
Yeah, and that's just the conundrum for the Heat because Tyler Herro is carrying them offensively.
Right.
33 points, 14 and 24. But he's such a defensive liability, too, and there's no way to get around that. You can't hide players in a playoff series. It just happens all the time.
They need him too much offensively, right? You can't take Tyler Herro off the court. You just can't. You have to live with it, and I think Cleveland is just going to continue with that strategy, right? I think Darius Garland said that and was comfortable saying that post-game for a reason.
Absolutely. All right, we got 2 day games and another one starting literally as we speak. Cole Reagan's on the mound against the Rockies. That game got rained out yesterday there. Wreaked havoc in the DFS world for those of you who are trying to go with Reagan's there. But 2 games underway. Garrett Crochet versus Brian Wu. Great pitching matchup. Yet it's 4-1 in the middle of the second inning here. Crochet's given up 4 runs in 2 innings. The Mariners are getting him in dribs and drabs. Only 1 extra base hit, but 4 hits in this one here for them. 2 walks. Meanwhile, Alex Bregman homered off of Wu in the bottom of the first. So that one's 4-1 going into the bottom of the second inning. The other game that's ongoing right now is White Sox and Twins. That one is White Sox 1-0. They are in the 4th inning already in that one. That one started a little earlier. Chris Paddock versus Shane Smith. Luke Kershaw has not done anything amazing yet this game. That is a shocker. He has been so good so far this season. Batting 3rd, been a DFS just fined at $3,000 on DraftKings. Love what he's been able to do so far. We'll see if that can continue, see if that price kind of hikes up a little bit, and see what happens when the Twins get some players healthier. All right, you're watching Prop Points. When we come back, we're going to take a look at tonight's slate. Right back.
Are you ready to unlock your creativity and transform your passion for beauty into a career? Southeastern College is here to help you take your first steps towards training for a career in cosmetology. Unlock your potential and start your path towards a career making people feel confident. It's time to invest in yourself. Visit sec.edu for more information on our programs and take the first step toward training for a brand new career in cosmetology. Your before and after story starts now at Southeastern College.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Prop Points. We're going to take a little bit of a detour in our normal format where we're going to preview the night slate. Usually we do that in segment 4, but with the draft today, we're going to do the NBA and MLB preview now. We got 3 games in the NBA playoffs again. Busy night in the NBA. It's a kind of a repeat of Monday in terms of the games. Knicks, Pistons, Thunder, Grizzlies, and Nuggets, Clippers with the big one there. So let's get through the first 2 games kind of quickly. We can spend more time on Nuggets and Clips. So I think everybody's excited about. But Knicks, Pistons. I mean, Pistons get their game in New York. Pretty interesting game here. I think it's going to be, hey, pat you on the head. Good job. You got a game. But maybe not. Maybe they think this is a fight.
I think it's a fight, Jeff. I think it's a fight. And, I bet the Knicks essentially to win this series in 5, the under 5.5 games coming into the series. And I think so far, on balance, you could make an argument that the Pistons have looked like the better team for the majority of these first 8 quarters. Aside from that 21-0 run by the Knicks in Game 1, I think Detroit feels like they've led for the majority of this series. And I thought Game 2 was a really impressive response. I thought it would be difficult for the Pistons to summon that level of energy, that level of effort after blowing a big lead in Game 1. They completely proved me wrong. I almost feel like I need to take a timeout and just take a step back on this series. But as far as what I'm looking at tonight, Knicks are 1.5-point favorites on the road. Totals up at 217 at the DK Sportsbook. I'm thinking about going back to the well, Jeff, on Karl Anthony Towns. The points prop is at 22.5. I think that's really reasonable. I think the Knicks will make a point to get him more involved. If we're talking about it, they're definitely talking about it. Karl-Anthony Towns cannot take 3 shots in the second half. He can't barely touch the ball for an entire fourth quarter in a competitive game. So that is one thing I would look at. Josh Hart over 11.5 points is also intriguing. Hasn't played great so far in this series, but we saw him play a lot more minutes in game 2. We know Tibbs loves tightening that rotation. They went away from campaign. I think this could be one of those 40-plus minute nights for Josh Hart. He's going to be in the mix enough that I like his chances to go over there. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a disastrous game 2. He was 0 of 6 from 3, but you get the over 1.5 threes right now at DraftKings. It's minus 160. Don't love the price. If you're feeling a little saucier, 3+ threes is plus 180. Have to think he shoots it better at home. And you got to look at Tobias Harris as well, who's been really good in this series. Over 6.5 rebounds is the play for Tobias Harris. 19 boards for him through these first 2 games of the series. He's averaging 41.5 minutes per game. The poor shooting for both sides has kind of helped in terms of available rebounds. We also don't know if Isaiah Stewart is going to be out there tonight. And if he's not, I think we see even more of Tobias Harris, the preferred matchup on Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yep. And that's always the tricky part is like, okay, how can they get it, arrange it there? They get that proper matchup there.
Yep.
But, that's the funny thing. I would go back to the well with Cat. I feel like he owes me instead of never again. Some people have that mentality. You miss on a bet one time, you're like, okay, well, was I wrong, or was it just that they get it? Did they get the?
Yeah, the player was wrong. We're never wrong.
Yeah, I think this is one where he owes me. I'm going to go back to the Whalen Cat.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at Thunder Grizzlies, Jeff, and we'll try to do this one quickly. Thunder 9.5-point favorites on the road. I already have a bet in for the Thunder to sweep this series. I'm feeling very good about that. I would look at the under here. I mean, the total's up to 228. The Grizzlies have scored 80 and 99 points so far in this series. I know they're back home, but there's a lot of pressure on the Grizzlies, I think, to keep this game close because if, and in my opinion, when they go down 0-3, this series is over. It's really, really tough to bring that effort level when you're down 3-0 and you just see the writing on the wall. So this is the opportunity, I think, if there ever was one for Memphis to try to keep this series alive. But I think you have to be concerned if you're the Grizzlies, specifically with what we saw offensively from OKC in Game 2. They end up winning. They cover a big number. They shot just 43% from the field, 33% from beyond the arc. Still ended up winning by margin. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, another poor game by his standards. He's 14 of 42 from the field in this series, and the Thunder are still dominating. So I think this could be the night we see SGA break out of that. Over 31.5 points is minus 125 at FanDuel. There's already some 32.5s out there in the market. I think a lot of people are going to jump on that. Jalen Williams over 5.5 assists, over 4.5 assists. That's another number I would play. He's averaging 11.5 potential assists per game, Jeff. The advanced numbers say that the Thunder are not converting at their normal clip on those assists. They say he should be averaging closer to 7.5 assists so far for this series. So we'll bank on that shooting coming around even on the road. I think we're getting a good number on that 4.5.
Shudder to think it could be even better for the Thunder there.
Right. It could. It could and it will.
Yeah, that's extraordinary there. Okay. Let's go with the title fight here tonight. Nuggets, Clips.
Yep.
This has been the best series so far. I expect more of the same. Clippers now at home. Only the second time all season they played the Nuggets at home. They played 3 out of 4 in Denver because they played the in-season tournament game at Denver as well. What do you like in this game?
So the Clippers are 5.5-point home favorites, and both the first 2 games of this series have been extremely close. That's a bit bigger of a number than I would have expected. I'm staying away from the side there. I would lean Clippers if I had to bet it. But one big thing hanging over this game is Michael Porter Jr. is questionable. The Nuggets have indicated that they think he'll play through the shoulder injury, but will he be limited? Will he play as well as he did in Game 2? I don't think you can count on that. As somewhat of a Michael Porter Jr. hedge, Jeff, I'm looking at Aaron Gordon over 5.5 rebounds, plus money, plus 100 right now at DraftKings. He's got 14 rebounds through the first 2 games of this series. I'd also look at the under 212.5 here. The pace has been way down. Pace has been in the low 90s through these first 2 games. The Clippers obviously are a team that does want to slow things down. They've been great at dictating that pace. And again, if Michael Porter Jr. isn't out there or he's limited, there's not an obvious pivot. There's not another great 3-point shooter that the Nuggets can just pivot to. It's Peyton Watson. It might be more Russell Westbrook. I don't think either of those are great options for Denver. And then the other prop that I have for this one, Jeff, I'm going back to the well on Chris Dunn. Over 3.5 boards, plus 124 and 6 rebounds in Game 2. I think he's going to continue to play a ton of minutes. They really, really value what he brings defensively, specifically against Jamal Murray.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun one to watch. You'll have to deal without the volume with you're watching in the sports book there, probably. I don't know. I mean, your Jaguars will have long since picked by then at least, so you've got that going for you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man. Well, and we'll talk a little NFL draft later, by the way. There's been a huge shift in the Ashton Genty odds. When I went to bed last night, the Jaguars were minus 160 to draft Ashton Genty. And let's just say they are no longer even the favorites to land him.
Yeah, that's a tease. That's a very good tease. The NFL Draft is one of the few betting events where research beats reputation, and VSiN Pro helps you cash in. Right now, get VSiN Pro access through August 1st for just $59, a full summer of sharp betting insights at half the regular price. With VSiN Pro, you'll get daily best bets, including sharp insight into NFL draft props, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, full access to VSiN.com's analytics, betting trends, and expert breakdowns. From the draft to the Derby and beyond, every sport, every edge, one low price. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe.
All right, Jeff, let's talk some Major League Baseball. We'll get some of your best bets for today. Give you a quick scoreboard update first, though. The Chicago White Sox have added to their lead. They're now up 2-0 on Chris Paddock and the Twins in the fourth inning there. White Sox now minus 210 on the money line. Seattle still leading Boston 4-1. And the Colorado Rockies have jumped on Cole Ragans. They are up 1-0 in the first. I know you're looking at this Brewers-Giants game later today, Jeff. We got the Giants as pretty big favorites, minus 162 on the money line. Another low total at 7.5. What do you like?
So the reason for this is that the big line in favor of the Giants is you look at the lineup. No Jackson Chourio today. No William Contreras in the lineup for the Brewers there. That's got to move it in that direction. It's the first start of the year for Tobias Myers. I like Myers. Intriguing upside pitcher. Not that young, though. He's kind of bounced around AAA for a long time. Finally hit the majors last year. At one point, Nick, the Rays traded Tobias Myers to the Cleveland Guardians for Junior Caminero. He then bounced out of the Guardians organization, bounced out of the Giants organization at one point in time. So a little bit of a revenge game for Myers there. But he started the year on the IL. This is his first start of the season. 76 pitches, 5 innings in his latest rehab start. So you don't think he's going to go deep into the game. Yep. That's another thing that's kind of working that way. Some turmoil in the Giants bullpen, though. Ryan Walker, 3 bad outings in a row. Camilo Duvall had to come in and finish the save. Duvall's now pitched 3 of the last 4 days. I like the pitcher for the Giants, Landon Roop, especially against this more toothless lineup than usual for the Brewers. He's K'd 8 or more in 3 of his 4 starts so far. So let's bet on the streak.
Okay.
I'm going to go Roop over 5.5 Ks at minus 110. And if you want to dabble in the win, Roop at plus 175 to record the win. I like that better than paying the juice on the Giants to win on the money line.
All right, Jeff, let's hit one more before we bring in our guy, John McKechnie, for some NFL draft talk in the next segment. Rays, Diamondbacks, we got Arizona as a minus 135 favorite. 8.5 is our total. Nobody loves fading Corbin Burns more than Jeff Erickson.
Guilty as charged. I mean, we've talked about the strikeout regression for him, and it just keeps on going. He's down to 18.5% in his K percentage for the year. His walk percentage is up around 9. It's been well documented here, his struggles. So I'm just going to keep betting the under on his Ks. I don't love the price at minus 140 with 5.5 Ks. Maybe you find an alt line and find a better price there. Try to find the under 4.5 Ks, for instance, there. I don't mind going the Rasmussen over 5.5 Ks too. Really good pitcher right now. Both bullpens are taxed, so I think they'll keep the starters in a little longer. They had that extra inning game yesterday.
All right. I know you're also taking a look at Jacob deGrom under 6.5 strikeouts. Rangers on the road at the Athletics tonight. Jeff Erickson also leaning over 8.5 runs in that one. We're going to head to break. When we come back, NFL draft the rest of the way. John McKechnie going to join us with his best bets for tonight.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Prop Points here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson here with you on this wonderful Thursday. We are just hours away from round 1 of the NFL draft, and fittingly, we have one of our favorite guests on the line, one of our draft experts over at RotoWire.com. You can check him out on Twitter at Johns_tailgate. It's John McKechnie on the Progressive Guest Line, helping us break down the NFL draft. John, so many things still shifting, again, as we near the start of round one later tonight. And obviously, we've been keeping a very close eye on the Shedeur Sanders market. For the last month, the Saints have been the favorite to take Sanders. Now we've seen the Steelers emerge as the favorite. They are now minus 150 for his landing spot at the DraftKings Sportsbook. As far as the latest intel that you've seen, John, where do you expect Shedeur Sanders to land? And is there a chance that he doesn't even go in round one?
Well, I think that that this is one that has been a fascinating one to follow. I was always dubious on him being a top 10 selection, and now it seems like the word out there is that 21 is sort of the ceiling for him. 21, of course, is where the Steelers are picking tonight if they don't trade it. I think that there's a chance that the Steelers try to move back just a little bit. And I think that Sanders could still be in play there, but the Steelers would still be able to acquire a little bit of extra draft capital for their troubles. But it seems like Jackson Dart is kind of right there neck and neck to be the second quarterback off the board at this point. So I think bottom line, I envision Shedeur Sanders being someone that's drafted after the 21st pick. I don't think that the Steelers hold their pick at 21, and I think that they move it to somebody else. I think the Texans are in play to move up to 21, for instance. Our colleague Mario Puig had the Chiefs moving all the way up to 21. So I think either way, if you're looking at a prop market for Sanders where his over-under is at 21.5, I like it to be a little bit later on in the first round.
John, let's talk about Ashton Genty and how he illustrates how the betting market for players is pretty fickle when it comes to the NFL draft. For the longest time, the Raiders were considered the odds-on favorite to draft Genty. Last night, Jags fan Nick Whalen, we went to bed knowing that Genty was the favorite to go to his Jaguars. Now, it's the Chicago Bears are the favorite. Where do you place Genty if you have that intel, or where should he go?
Well, that makes me feel vindicated. Like that's like the good part of NFL draft betting. It can be so volatile, but sometimes you can get some great closing line value. And in this instance, I believe that the Bears are going to trade up to 5. They're going to get ahead of the Raiders, and they're going to select Ashton Genty tonight because I think that they really are just a running back away from making that offense pretty scary, given what they did this offseason, building the offensive line. I think the Raiders have bigger fish to fry, so I don't think that they're necessarily in the market for Genty. That never really made all that much sense to me. And the Jaguars, I know they haven't gotten as much out of Travis Etienne as they would have liked, but they, like the Raiders, have bigger fish to fry. A running back isn't going to fix all of their problems. The Bears, I think, are going to be compelled. We've seen Ryan Poles make big splashes in the draft before. I think tonight's another instance of that. I'm looking at the Bears moving up to 5, taking Ashton Genty.
More from our friend John McKechnie in a moment. But, folks, it is officially draft day, and VSiN knows every single pick matters. Tune in for 2 special live shows breaking down every pick for the first round from a betting perspective. VSiN Primetime Draft Edition starts at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, followed by Cashing Out Draft Edition at 11 p.m. Eastern. Plus, explore our NFL Draft Hub over on the VSiN Watch app, featuring exclusive analysis, team needs, and insights. Or just visit VSiN.com/draft. That is where you'll find all of our coverage. Again, that's VSiN.com/draft. John McKechnie joining us on the Progressive Guest Line, helping us break down what we may see out in Green Bay tonight. John, I know you got a whole slew of draft props that we want to get to, and I want to start with Tyler Warren. I'm exploring some Colston Loveland props as well. I think there could be some teams out there that maybe favor Loveland over Warren, but I know you're looking at a specific landing spot for Tyler Warren inside the top 10.
Yeah, so FanDuel has these markets where, by each single pick, they have the potential candidates to go there. And you don't really want to pay the juice on anything in the top 5 to 6, where the Raiders are selecting is kind of where I'd start to consider it. But 7, I think, is really the sweet spot. The Jets could go in a couple different directions. I think they could go offensive line, but they could also very well go with tight end, like someone like Tyler Warren. And what's really interesting here is how much the odds have shifted. Like we were talking about, this is a very volatile type of event when it comes to the betting odds. When I sat down to write these props up last night, Tyler Warren was plus 380 on FanDuel to go 7th overall. Right now, plus 175. So that actually puts him ahead of Armand Membu, who was actually the odds-on favorite late last night. So I think there's still time to get value, but I think if you're reading the direction of the way things are going, jump on it now when it comes to Warren if you're interested in that, him landing 7 to the Jets.
John, I know you have a trio of potential guys to go in the first round that you like, all at plus 130, Ezeraku, Ibuka, and Henderson. Of those three, who's the one you feel strongest about?
I think Ezeraku, the edge rushers are always in style in the first round, and he really does have the goods athletically and production wise. I think that he's a lock to probably go the highest of these guys. I don't think see him sliding past the Packers at 23. Ibuka, if the Texans stand pat at 25, I think he's an option there. And Henderson, it all comes down to the running back market. There's been a long time sentiment that Omarion Hampton would be the second running back off the board. That is less the case now. I think Henderson has really gained some steam here over the last few days. I think that he's the landing spot for Denver at 20. So I think that there's a really good chance that each of these three guys go in the first round. You're not getting crazy value on it at plus 130, but I think when you're talking about guys like Ezeraku and Ibuka, who are virtual locks, and Henderson, who is more of a late riser here, I think that that's still a nice bet to throw in there at plus 130.
John, we have talked extensively on this show, and with you specifically, about Tet McMillan. I know you're not necessarily buying some of the smoke that we could see a big fall for him later tonight. You got Todd McShay going around saying, I don't even have a first-round grade on this guy. We got questions about his commitment, questions about his work ethic. Yet he is still minus 290 to be the first wide receiver drafted. But I know you're looking to pick up a little bit more value here. Tell us about McMillan going inside the top 10 and where you think that landing spot might be.
So I think that there's, at plus 250, I think that there's enough teams that are going to be interested in receiver at that juncture. I think the Panthers make some sense. I think, if the Jaguars move back to 10, I think that he makes some sense. And I actually thought that he might be a nice fit for the Raiders as well. So there's a few ways in which this can work out for Tet McMillan going in the top 10. And I do think that ultimately, reason prevails. There's a reason why he was wide receiver 1 coming into this season. I don't think he really did anything to move off of that. I know Golden had the nice combine and offers a bit of a different archetype as far as the receiver goes as a kind of a speed guy, but I think Tet McMillan is the first receiver off the board, and I'm not buying that he drops off. It was funny last night watching the Arizona beat reporters just kind of take turns beating up on the report that Tet McMillan doesn't work hard enough. They were all very offended by that one. They can attest he is a hard worker.
Very good. Running back exacta. You like this one? Yeah, fun little exacta. I'm assuming this is just the order that they go in. Genty, Henderson, Hampton, Judkins. You get a plus 290 price on that one.
That's right. I'm not entirely positive that this is still out there on FanDuel, but it was as of about an hour ago. And yes, it just kind of dovetails with my thinking that Henderson actually ends up being the second running back off the board and not Omarion Hampton. That said, I don't see Omarion Hampton necessarily falling. I think that, he's kind of like the 2B in this class. So him going 3 makes a lot of sense. And Quinshon Judkins, when you look at what's behind him, whether it's Caleb Johnson or Cam Scadaboo, they're nice prospects, but they're more like late second round prospects. I don't think that Judkins falls much past pick 40. So I think that this is the way that the cookie crumbles at the running back spot.
I will say, John, full disclosure, late last night I did throw in a half-unit play on Judkins to be a first-round pick. So we will see. We will see. I think there's enough running back needy teams in that 24 to 32 range. All right, we got time for one more, John. About 45 seconds here. I love this one. The Cleveland Browns to draft both of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. You can get that at 3-1. Tell us how that would end up working out.
Okay, so this one, I think we can almost take it for a given that the Browns are going to take Travis Hunter second overall. Now, they have an early pick in the second round as well. We've seen it time and time again where a team that is picking in that range can move up into the first round. I think there are going to be some teams looking to move out of the first round. So I think there's going to be plenty of dance partner potential for the Browns to move back into the first round and grab Shedeur Sanders, because right now they don't have a serious quarterback room. I think that the Rams are going to want to move back. That's how I draw it up. I think the Browns and Rams make a swap in the at pick 26 tonight. That's where Sanders goes.
Excellent stuff from our guy, John McKechnie. Again, check out all of his great work at RotoWire.com. Follow him on Twitter at Johns_tailgate. John, I know this is Super Bowl weekend for you, man. You got a lot of work ahead of you, but looking forward to checking it all out over on RotoWire. So enjoy the draft. We appreciate you joining us as always. We're going to head to break. When we come back, we'll give you some baseball updates. Jeff and I are going to give our best bets for the NFL draft. That's coming up next here on Prop Points.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Prop Points here on VSiN. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson hanging out with you, bringing you up to the top of the hour. Make it rain with Adam Shine coming up next. As always, he's going to have VSiN's Patrick Maher on the show to give his best bets for the first round of the NFL draft. And we're going to do the same in a moment, Jeff. We're going to give out our best leans as we look ahead to Thursday night. But first, we'll give you an update on the Major League Baseball scoreboard. Mariners leading the Red Sox 4-2. Alex Bregman added another RBI. He homered early in the game, that one in the bottom of the fourth. Tied up at 2 out in Kansas City. This is the first of 2 games today after Royals-Rockies got rained out last night. 2-2 in the top of the third. The Chicago White Sox continuing to blank the Minnesota Twins 2-0 in the top of the sixth.
Yeah, Chris Paddock got the start in that one there. 9 base runners through 5 innings. He got a little lucky to only allow those 2 runs. The fact that it's the White Sox, too, that it's up against there. The fantasy community is clamoring for Zebby Matthews to get the call. He almost did get the call about a week and a half ago. Instead, he's toiling in AAA. He's a better pitcher than Paddock right now. Get him up there, Twins. Do the right thing.
All right, Jeff, let's talk some NFL draft. And before we get to our best bets, I do want to mention, we're talking with John McKechnie about these shifting markets, and they are changing minute by minute at this point. Mm-hmm. We have an updated Jackson Dart to be drafted by market. This was not available until just a couple hours ago on DraftKings. The New York Giants now minus 135 to draft Jackson Dart. Doesn't necessarily have to be with their first pick, just to take him at some point. Giants minus 135. The over-under draft slot prop is now off the board. It was sitting at 24.5 for the last couple of weeks. Can't even bet it anymore. So we're seeing a lot of movement around Jackson Dart. If the Giants do end up taking him, I can't believe I'm even asking you this. Is there a world in which they take Jackson Dart at 3, Jeff?
I mean, there's a world. There's definitely a world. And a world where the Falcons sign Kirk Cousins, then draft Michael Penix in the first round. Yeah. Yes, there's a world where that exists. I don't think it's a smart world, but this is one of the paradoxes that we have to deal with is we have, GMs and coaches that are fighting for their jobs, and the Giants are in this really weird position where their GM and their coach are essentially lame ducks. They don't win this year. They're gone. So They kind of have to figure out, okay, what are we really going to do? And the thing is, you think they'd play the veteran, but they sign Russell Wilson, they sign Jameis Winston, and draft Jackson Dart and pass up on Abdul Carter. That just seems bananas to me.
All right, let's get to your best bets, Jeff. I agree with a lot of these. I didn't want to double up, but I saw your list, and I was like, man, I kind of like 2 or 3 of these. But we will start with the running backs market. You're looking at the over 2.5 running backs to be drafted in the first round. I know it was plus 100 last night, now plus 130 at DraftKings. Yeah. So we know Ashton Genty. We assume Omarion Hampton. He's an overwhelming favorite to go in round 1. Is it Travion Henderson? Could we see Judkins sneak in? How many running backs do you ultimately see in round 1? Is it just 3?
It's 3 and maybe Judkins, but I'm big on Henderson. I'm buying the smoke on this one here. The fact that Henderson has minus odds to go in the first round, yet we're getting plus odds to get over 2.5 running backs in the first round makes me wonder more about Hampton. Makes me wonder if because all along, I think how many mocks have we seen where we've seen like Hampton go at 20 to the Broncos. Well, that's changing a little bit there.
Yep.
Or even seeing maybe like the Chiefs trade up to get Henderson at 20. That's Jim Coventry was suggesting that on our Sirius XM today. So yeah, I just, I'm kind of tying in the 2.5 running backs and the Henderson pick. I mean, getting plus 130, that must mean that there's some people that are really doubting on Hampton right now.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. I'm surprised by that number as well, because it does seem like there has been some Travion Henderson steam, but I'm with you on this one. I ultimately think we get 3 running backs in the first round. Wishful thinking a bit with my Quinshon Judkins bet, but we'll see. I think there are enough running back needy teams out there. So given what we've talked about with Jackson Dart, given what we discussed with John McKechnie about Shedeur Sanders, what leads you to the under 2.5 quarterbacks taken in round 1?
Yeah, there's a strong chance this doesn't age well, but I think it's Sanders is the guy that slips and into the second round to the Browns, because I don't think they trade up for it. I think that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll feel that pressure. Maybe once Dart goes off the board, someone trades up to get Dart, or the Saints take Dart at 9 or something of that nature. Then you'll see it. I mean, the fact that the Giants are now the lead one, I don't know how to react to that, actually. This might be a classic, this didn't age well sort of segment here. But I think Sanders falls out of the first round. I just don't see the Steelers being that team. I mean, I know there's a lot of good reasons why the Steelers would take him, but I think the Steelers need help on that interior defensive line so much. I think they go that way. I just don't see Sanders and Tomlin mixing all that well. So I just think that's the point where that part misses there. So I'm going to go with the under 2.5 quarterbacks with that.
We're giving you our best bets for the NFL draft tonight. Those best bets are brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN, and G-Bank is up in the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening get a $250 bonus. If you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within 30 days of account opening, you'll get another $500 bonus. So add that up, potentially $750 in bonus cash coming your way. You can apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. Jeff, you and I both have some tight end bets that we're looking at. We talked about the Bears now being minus money to take Ashton Jeanty with their first pick. You like Tyler Warren to go at number 10 overall, which is a pick currently held by the Chicago Bears. But if we believe the smoke around Jeanty, maybe it won't be the Bears picking at 10 by the time we get there. Warren to be drafted 10th overall, plus 320 right now. I'm looking at something a little bit longer, Jeff. Plus 280, Colston Loveland to be the first tight end selected. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I think there are teams out there that prefer Colston Loveland. I think you could look at the numbers and say, yeah, Tyler Warren was maybe more important to his team. He was more productive at the college level. I think there's a case to be made that Colston Loveland has the higher upside at the NFL level. And look, if you're taking a tight end in the first round, if you're taking a tight end inside the top 15, I think you want to shoot for that upside. So I'm throwing a bit of a dart here on Loveland, but what is it that appeals to you about that Tyler Warren play?
Well, first of all, I actually agree with you on Loveland versus Warren. I just don't know if the teams are going to feel that way. Yeah. It turns out a fit. I was again talking with RotoWire's Jim Coventry. We were talking about how Loveland has a more all-around tight end type of game. He's a better blocker than Tyler Warren, for instance. There, Loveland had some injuries that maybe kind of limited some of our views on him and some of his production at the start of the season last year. There's a lot of people that love Loveland. I could see his case there where the Jets go Loveland at 7 and the Bears still get Warren at 10. Now, all that might be blown up with your Jaguars. They're like the wild card in this whole situation here. I saw something that they might trade up for Travis Hunter.
Yep.
I mean, that's still a possibility too. I mean, all sorts, that's the one linchpin team, I think, right now. And so they could go bananas. They could take that tight end too, by the way. That's certainly within the realm of possibility. But I think if Warren's there and Jeanty's not, and I am assuming Jeanty won't be at 10, it might be because of the Bears, but we'll see. If Jeanty is not there, I think they go Warren.
Once again, the eyes of the NFL are trained on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Here we are. I would not mind a tight end, Jeff. Obviously, they parted ways with Evan Ingram. I don't think you make that pick at 5. I think that would be a trade down. And if you can get into that 10 to 15 range, whichever of those tight ends is on the board, probably more likely to be Loveland. Maybe you go in that direction. But I'm believing these Travis Hunter rumors, by the way. I mean, again, the Jags have linked themselves to basically every prospect who could go in the top 10. But we keep seeing more and more droppings, from big newsbreakers saying, man, the Jags are working on something big. They're working on something big. We'll see. This makes me nervous. I love Travis Hunter. I love Ashton Genty. It's just, do I trust the Jacksonville Jaguars of all teams to maximize those guys? A couple of bets that I'm looking at, Jeff. I've talked a ton about Jackson Dart these last couple of weeks. I put this in at plus 150, Dart to be the second quarterback off the board. That is now shifted to minus 130 at the DraftKings Sportsbook. I still think there's a better chance wherever Dart ends up, whether it's inside the top 10, whether it's to the Giants at 3. I think he does go ahead of Shedeur Sanders. I'm with you on the over 2.5 running backs. Talked about that one. And then, one that I'm looking at in the team-specific markets, Jeff, the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of smoke around Green Bay, targeting a receiver, something they haven't done since Javon Walker in 2002. If Ted McMillan were to slip, I think that would become an obvious pick. But I like Green Bay to take a cornerback with their first pick at plus 160. There's not necessarily an elite cornerback prospect in this draft, but I think it's a really good draft if you need a cornerback, if you're picking at, say, 23rd overall, where the Green Bay Packers sit. You got Maxwell Hairston, you got Jahdae Barron, Trey Amos, Will Johnson. All those guys could be in play. It could turn out a lot like last season, where the Packers are on the clock. They have their pick of the litter of the cornerbacks. Obviously, they went away from that last year. They've paid for it. I think that's their biggest need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if they follow through on a trade. There's been so much rumors, about them moving on and going away from Jair Alexander. That hasn't happened yet. But if they get a first-round corner, sure, I can see that happening.
I think they're trading Jair. I think Jair has worn out his welcome in Green Bay. And look, you take him off this roster, it gets really bleak really fast. You're depending a lot on Keyshawn Nixon, who was a below-average slot corner last year. Eric Stokes now, of course, a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. Very excited for draft night. Jeff, we'll have all of our recaps coming on the show tomorrow. Obviously, we'll have some draft specials here on VSiN later tonight. Make sure you check those out. And make sure you stick around. Coming up next, Make It Rain with Adam Shine. Keep it locked right here on the Sports Betting Network.
This is your before and after story. Southeastern College can help you prepare for a secure and fulfilling career in the growing healthcare field. We offer a wide range of careers to choose from. So whether you want to be a medical assistant, medical billing and coding specialist, nurse, surgical technologist, or another healthcare career, we've got you covered. Become a vital part of a healthcare team and make a real difference. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.